You're watching Focus. I'm Haig Ellian. Tonight we're going to be talking about a variety of subjects: small town America and a fantastic vegetable garden. My guest is Russell Belcher. Russell Belcher, I've known you for a number of years, but after I read your biography, you have quite a background. You grew up in Grundy, Virginia.
That's correct.
And where is that?
Grundy, Virginia, as you see with the picture here, is in the far southwestern part of the state of Virginia, in Appalachia. And this is Main Street that we're looking at right now of my town in 1953 when I was a little boy. When I was in my 20s, I came up to Washington, and I came up initially to teach special needs children. I moved into it wasn't a commune, but it was a group house of other younger people like me. And one of the things I liked about it was that they had a garden, and the garden was in the front yard because we couldn't put it in the backyard. And so this is where I met my wife Marion, who you'll see later on in the program, the person who does all the work at our house right now. And anyway, we had all of this vegetation in the front yard, and we received a notice at one point from the county that we had violated the weed ordinance of growing things more than 12 inches tall in our front yard.
Hello? I didn't know you couldn't.
Well, you couldn't back then, I guess.
Now, if I can interrupt a minute, Russ, you did mention that you came here as a teacher for special needs. Mm-hmm. You are by training a biologist.
Well, I have a bachelor's degree in biology, and I have a master's degree in medical anthropology.
Medical anthropology?
Yes.
Which is like forensics?
I don't dig up people.
Oh.
I only dig up vegetables.
Okay.
And now we kind of go to the next picture here, and this is the Bethesda Co-op when it was on Bethesda Avenue. And I became involved with starting the Bethesda Co-op in 1975, just after I'd moved into this group house that had the garden. And it all kind of came together, you know, food, growing your own food, having a better way to buy your groceries, you know, so on. And I made a lot of the bins inside and the shelving, and that's where it kind of came together for me. Again, was the food and using my hands, you know, making things.
It was a fascinating store.
That may not look like me, but it was me. This is a picture of me in Nepal when I was in my late 20s, and I had been there once in 1973, and then I went back in 1980 when this was taken in the central western Nepal at the foot of Gangapurna, and I went back to do some freelance photojournalism. I took a class at the Corcoran for a year on black and white photography, and I took a class in learning Nepali, the language of Nepal, and some courses at the Writers Center so I could write.
And this is your house, your current house?
This is our current house. Yeah, this is in the springtime, so you can't see everything that's there now, but we're a little bit later we'll see what we're trying to do for the front yard. We've changed it from a lawn to a little forest glen-like area in one part where the trees are, and on the other side we're transforming it into a meadow. So we'll see some of that later. Now, what do you think this is, this picture?
Well, it looks like fertilizer to me.
Yeah.
But I I'd like to hear you tell the viewing public what it is, because I find that interesting.
Some people might call it dirt, people might call it soil, but I call it earth because it's actually what we grow our vegetables in, but it's also where we come from. All of us come from the earth, and we will return to the earth when we pass away, as everything does. But this is a handful of life here. This is from our garden. We don't use any pesticides or artificial fertilizers, and we don't step on it. We used a raised bed garden method of growing our vegetables organically, and we fork it up, dig it up every spring and put in our compost and our organic fertilizer in it and plant our vegetables and so forth. But if there's anything that I could really convey to our viewing public, it would be that we are all part of nature, and we need to keep that in mind in our lives because we've gotten away from that. A lot of kids don't even know where their food comes from. They have no idea how things grow. This is a view from our roof looking out on a part of our garden where it's sectioned into different beds. And you don't walk on the soil, like I said. You walk on these timbers that separate these areas. And there's also some lines for our drip irrigation system, but you don't have to have that. You can just do whatever you want. And then the lower right-hand corner is our cold frame that we use when it's too cold to grow things most of the time, but you can put them under that and they do okay, for hardy crops. In the back there you see the garden that was shown earlier. They had all the separations and the soil and everything. This is when it's really at full swing, around July or so. And this is a gentleman who received a gift from that garden. Maybe you could say something about that.
Oh, I can say a lot about it. You showed up at my house and you said, I want you to taste something. And you had these two huge tomatoes which were joined. Yes. And this is me looking at them, and I'm sure that my eyes were a little bit wider than that when I saw them. And then we had the good fortune to eat them, because you left them behind. Well, if you tried to get out of the house with them, you wouldn't have succeeded. But they were absolutely delicious.
Now, there's all kinds of tomatoes that are out there. We grow different types, like the one that you had, which are, they're excellent. They're heritage tomatoes and that have this really long history, and they're very special. And so you had the ones then you have small ones like these. They're not cherry tomatoes. They're called Principi Borghese. They're an Italian tomato that is used by the Italians they dry them. So they make them like in sun-dried tomatoes.
And you brought over a purple tomato too.
Yes, Cherokee Purple is the other one that I brought to you, and that is spectacular.
Yes, it was.
The taste is just unbelievable. These are some that we grew a few years ago. They're a kind of yellow tomato that has a low acid content in it. And in the backyard, you'll see there's a lot of vegetation and everything, but you'll see that there's some colors, a little bit of color back there. And that color is bee balm or monarda that grows in one of our barrels. And there's a bumblebee on it that's been attracted. There's some other things in the backyard too, like a butterfly bush. So there's various things that draw different types of insects, and it's really, really very nice at times. Now, another important thing that I really want to stress, besides the soil, the earth, is the ease that you can have to grow things. You don't have to have a big garden like we do. Ours grew gradually, but you can grow things in containers. and it doesn't have to be really involved, just as long as you've got some sun and some soil, earth, and a container. And it could be on a balcony of a condo or something. But here in our situation, we have several of them. My wife is sprouting some lettuce there in that one that's got the mesh over the top to keep the squirrels away. The others have different types of basil. So we have several types of basil. And there's just another view of that same area where you can see that she's got flowers and she's got basil and she's got all kinds of things. In the back, this is a new bed in the backyard. We have a bed for different things, but this is for a particular type of squash, butternut squash. And there you see a small one growing. It's just started. And do you know what this might be, Haig?
No.
Okay, the lower color is beets, red beets, and the upper portion is Brussels sprouts, the green. And
which we eat a lot of, by the way.
Well, I do too. My wife doesn't like them, but she will harvest them. And there she is harvesting the Brussels sprouts with the aid of our neighbor's cat, Jinx. And you can see there that she's using clippers, but you could use something else. But she's taking the Brussels sprouts off, and they look like little baby cabbages, which they are, because it's in the cabbage family. And look at the size of that thing. Look how tall it is. She's 5'4", and it's all of that, at least all of that. And when she raises it up, we have to stake it. But it's truly amazing. I mean, I've never seen anything as humongous as this. This is our first year of really growing them successfully. And look at all those Brussels sprouts between those leaf stems. It's amazing. It's true. I mean, it's incredible. And so another incredible plant, or some unusual ones, are these. We have several. One is these purple cayenne peppers. That's what these are, purple cayenne. They first are green, then they turn purple, and then they turn red.
And they're hot as blazes.
They can be 60,000 Scoville units, which is fairly hot, but the next one is over 1 million Scoville units.
This is the hot one.
This is the Trinidad scorpion pepper, and it's got a little stinger on the end there. I guess that's why they call it the Trinidad scorpion.
And they bite like scorpions, too.
Oh, I had a little bit of one, and man.
Me too.
Oh, gee, I love hot peppers, but only so much, so in such certain ways. Another interesting and unusual plant that we have is Malabar spinach. And it grows, it's a vine, and it tastes like spinach, and you can prepare it like spinach, but it's a vine, and it grows prolifically once it gets started. And this year, we didn't even have to plant it. It came up from the seeds from last year. And it's truly remarkable, truly remarkable. And you see who that is.
The one that does all the work.
Yeah, that's my wife Marion, and she's digging up the potatoes from the potato bed like she does every year. And she's getting ready to wash some of the potatoes off in that bucket. She's got some on a piece of white plywood, and there's some in the bucket. And then there's two types. I think one is Pontiac Red, maybe, and yeah, and then we have another one, Yukon Gold, which is quite good. We grow that a lot. And you recognize that?
No.
That is purple passion asparagus.
Purple passion asparagus.
Yeah, my wife loves purple. She'll grow anything that's purple. You know, the purple beans, the purple okra, anything that's purple. This is how it starts from the ground, and you harvest it for about 6 weeks, and then you let it, you don't harvest it anymore. You don't cut it off at the ground level. You let it go into asparagus ferns, and they pick up the light from the sun to store it in the ground, the plants, so they'll come up next year and grow. And it's these really nice ferns that come up, and they have these little red berries that you see here that they'll actually form, they'll start little plants. And this is a flower bed of black-eyed Susans. And we have other things too. This is red sales lettuce, and the sun is lighting it up. And a lot of color in our garden. And I decided that I would just get some of our peppers and tomatoes and squash a couple of years ago, and kind of make a little collage. Now, this is our fig tree. It's called a brown turkey fig, and you can get about 3 plates, 2.5 plates of figs, as you can see here, about every day and a half, and that's a lot of figs. And so we really have to try hard to see how we can consume those figs. And so my wife, Marion, again, got in the kitchen one day and had a recipe, and she got the figs and stuffed them with goat cheese and wrapped them in their own leaves, and then she skewered them to hold them together with some branches or stems of rosemary, and we put it on the grill, which you can see here, and it turned out really good.
Well, figs, as you probably know, are very common and popular in the Middle East. And if I'm not mistaken, in Bethlehem, Jesus Christ lived in an area in a fig tree farm. So it has a history.
It does, yes. And they're really delicious.
Oh.
They're incredibly delicious. Our type, though, is a bit perishable, so we have to try to use them as soon as we can after we've picked them. And again, we're going back to Marion, who does all the work. And here she is. She's already dug up the old sugar snap peas that were there in that row, and she's planting new royal burgundy beans. And in a few weeks, we get new bean plants, as you see here, and we have the royal burgundy beans, the purple beans that she likes. And you can't keep up with them. They're so prolific. She'll go out and pick the beans and have a whole double handful, and then the next morning there'll be more than that have grown overnight from the little ones. This picture, Haig, is it's a little bit sad. It's a picture of our persimmon tree, and it looks fine. The persimmons are on it and everything, but if you look carefully, you'll see that the leaves of this tree are curled and somewhat discolored. There's some sort of disease or something that it's got. We think maybe it's in the roots, maybe it was caused by the rain. We had so much rain this spring, and it may have caused this fungus to form. And so we're trying to see whatever we can do to save the tree, but it's just part of nature. It's just the reality of nature that sometimes these things happen. It doesn't go perfectly. So part of life.
Well, plants live and they die,
That's right.
just as humans do.
That's right. Moving from the more serious to the more delightful, this is our neighbor Steve's house, and in front of his house he's got a farm stand. Now he has two main farm stands that are out of our neighborhood where he really does heavy duty selling of produce, but he has a small one in his house, in front of his house, for the neighborhood, and people can come by and purchase vegetables either when he's there, or if he's not there or he's in his house and he doesn't want to come out. You can just walk up and you see the price of the vegetables or fruits, and if it says $2 for such and such, you just take $2 out of your pocket and put it in this little can. He's been such an addition to our neighborhood this past year or so. And in this little farm stand that he has, you can see in those jars there's on the left there's pickled beets, and then there's a kind of succotash or something, another pickled jar, a couple of jars there that are made by this young woman named by the name of Josie, who prepares these things. She does the canning, and here she's making applesauce in the kitchen of the house. And there's Steve and Josie out with the table that's got their produce and some of the things that Josie has canned, and it's just a delight. People come up from all over, our general subdivision, and they stop, and they just love it, and it's really solidified our neighborhood. It's really added to a sense of community. That's what we need. That's what all communities need, to be strengthened. And what you see here is a couple of rain barrels. We have a couple of rain barrels, and the hose is leading from one of the rain barrels into our garden that catches the water from the roof. And that's how we deliver it, is with these hoses. And the black pipe, the black hose that you see there with the little small ones coming off, those are a part of the drip irrigation system that we have. But as I said before, you don't have to have that. It's just something that we've done gradually over the years. It saves water. Theoretically, it should deliver water more efficiently than just watering it by hand. And they use this a lot in California and in Israel too. And we have a bunch of Girl Scouts here. Our neighbor Kathy Winter is in this picture, and she's an artist, and she's showing these young Girl Scouts certain plants from our garden, and they're drawing pictures of them. They're having an art class, and then they're learning more about what we're growing, in our garden. And she's trying to show them the importance of how you can grow food and what it looks like and that sort of thing. And this picture is a schoolyard in Berkeley, California, and it's an edible garden, an edible schoolyard. And here are their tools that they use.
Wow.
Yeah, isn't that something?
Yeah.
They're like kids' size.
I've never seen one like that before.
Right. Yeah.
The kids built it, or?
I think this is just a little carrier for the, for the tools. And this long table is where they eat the food that they cook. And the food that they cook is the food that they grew. And I mentioned the lasagna thing to you about how we made our front yard into something different. Can you see what that might be over there, what you think it might be?
No.
It's cardboard and that's covered partially by leaves and straw, and And we're basically composting our front yard with this, keeping it wet. And this picture, can you see that one all right? It's the part of the meadow portion of the front yard. It's a goldfinch on the coneflowers that we have in the front yard. And this is called mountain mint. It has a minty aroma to it, and it's in the meadow portion of the yard. It grows in meadows. It's a native plant. And this is cardinal flower, and it's a very bright red flower, as you can see. And I stood in front of this plant for 5 to 7 minutes while a hummingbird went up and down the flower.
Humming.
Humming. Humming. Now, this picture, again, is of the person who does all the work around the house. But this is a few years back, Haig, and it's my wife Marion literally holding the fruits of our labor, her labor, and she's very proud. She's very happy. And I would say that this kind of sums it up. If you have your own garden, you grow your own vegetables or fruits, no matter how small, no matter how large, that you'll feel more fulfilled, once you go out and you pick that tomato, and you get to savor it, and you'll actually be outside maybe to see some double rainbows like this one.
Wow.
Yeah, you're outside, you see these things, and you'll be very happy, I think, just like this person.
Ah, what a good-looking man.
Good looking and having good-looking tomatoes.
Oh, the tomatoes are fantastic. Well, Russ, thanks so much for being here. It's been a fascinating show.
Thank you, Haig.
Until next time, we wish you well.